Hey, welcome everyone. It's hard not to follow the events unfolding in Ukraine hour by hour. But in addition, I've closely been tracking the economic fallout in Russia. I don't think it's an understatement to say that right now we are witnessing the fastest destruction of a modern economy in history. That's what we're talking about today. Stick around. Now, what makes the Russian economic situation so mind-blowing is the fact that we're talking about the world's 11th largest economy. This isn't Iran or North Korea, but frankly, from an economic isolation standpoint, that is exactly where Russia is headed. And what's more astonishing is the pace at which this is playing out. Literally, over the course of just 2 weeks, Russia has been effectively severed from the global economy. And this is putting its own economy in total freefall. Now, as a result of the unprecedented financial sanction imposed by virtually the entire developed world, foreign business interests, foreign investors, etc., have made a mad dash to get their money out of the Russian financial system. And of course, when everyone wants to sell anything all at the same time, the price collapses, and currencies are no exception. So no one wants to own Russian rubles right now. So the value compared to other major global currencies has totally collapsed, and you can see that up here in the accompanying chart. Now, when I said that no one wants to own Russian rubles right now, this even includes people inside Russia. So you probably saw some of these pictures on the news, but many Russians know that the currency is collapsing. They're trying to protect their savings by pulling their cash out of the banking system. They want to instead own currencies of other governments or gold or basically anything else that they think is going to be safer compared to rubles. Now, I touched on this in another video. I'll try to link that up here if you're watching on YouTube. But essentially what this amounts to is a run on the bank, and it truly threatens the entire financial system inside Russia. Now, causing even more problems is the fact that all the major payment processors, including Visa, American Express, MasterCard, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and on and on and on, have either pulled out of Russia, stopped processing transactions, or both. I mean, can you imagine if that were to happen in the US? Just this alone would create massive economic disruption. And of course, this is happening in Russia on top of all the other things that I've mentioned previously and that we're still yet to discuss. So I just mentioned the payment processors, but wait, there's more. Major global corporations are pulling out of Russia in droves. Here's just a short list of major companies that everyone's familiar with, but there's many, many more, and more are basically added to the list on a daily basis. And the question is, what do you think's happening to all the local employees in Russia that work for these firms? So of course, they're losing their jobs. And this becomes a domino effect because obviously when people lose their jobs, they don't have any income to spend. So the businesses that they would typically spend money at, they're losing income as well, which means they're going to have to lay people off. And again, it just becomes a major negative feedback loop and just reverberates across the entire economy. Now, it's difficult to gauge how much the average Russian citizen is feeling as it relates to all these sanctions and the effects they're having on the economy, because obviously the free press has all but been eliminated. Although Putin did just say in the last day or two that he viewed the sanctions as being tantamount to war or something to that effect. He basically signaled that he recognizes the immense damage that is being done. But that being said, the stock market in London, where a handful of large Russian companies provided a pretty bleak picture last week when these companies opened up for trading. And here's some headlines from CNBC. Basically, this group of large Russian companies, which hadn't been trading, the London Exchange opened them up to trading, and they effectively all were down, in excess of 90%, probably on their way to zero before trading was just stopped. So that gives you a sense of what markets think about the economic conditions in Russia and the value of these assets. Now, the local stock market in Russia has just been closed for a week now. And, obviously authorities there know that if it were to open, this is exactly what would be happening, not just across a couple companies, but across the entire Russian stock market. So this gives you a sense, again, stock markets are typically forward-looking, of what investors think about the economic situation in Russia right now. So what's playing out in Russia in real time is massive economic damage. And further, it's at a pace in which the world has never seen with a modern economy. And these consequences are going to be felt for years, if not decades. There's so many things I didn't mention in an effort to keep this relatively brief, but one other thing I'll just touch on real quickly is also the fact that Russia's credit is being destroyed. In response to the economic sanctions, the Russians said, okay, fine. You know what? In retaliation, we're not going to pay our debts to foreigners. Now, they've kind of wavered on this a little bit in the last couple of days, but the point is, when a country defaults on its debt, it's not unlike when an individual files for bankruptcy. It takes years and years before the lending markets are willing to borrow to someone or some country or companies within that country on reasonable terms. So assuming that this war, ultimately ends at some point and the Russians hope to rebuild their economy, no one's going to want to lend to them. So this economic wreckage, again, is going to be with them for years and years to come. Let me just finish by saying that obviously Vladimir Putin is going to be remembered in history for many things. But now we can add one more achievement to the list. That is overseeing the fastest destruction of a modern economy in history. And it definitely couldn't happen to a better person. So obviously there's so much more I could say on this topic, but we're going to leave it at that today. If there's anything specifically you're curious about, drop me a comment. It might give me an idea of something to make a video on. And look, if you enjoyed the video, do me a big favor and just smash the thumbs up button. I appreciate it. It really helps get the message out. Thanks for watching. Hope we'll see you in the next one.